Hello there, Internet! Once more, Dakion is coming to you with a Monday Miniatures Ramble. This time for Monday the 26th of March 2018. And you're looking at all the minis I got done this week. A grand total of 3 guys. Now, they're all GW minis, but they're from different ranges. This orc or goblin shaman is, I believe, it's at Lord of the Rings or Hobbit miniature, and kind of drab, as is appropriate, I think, but a bit green, and it's a metal mini. The other two are plastic old Warhammer Fantasy Battles minis, Dark Elves, which I painted as D&D Drow, not as Warhammer Dark Elves. And it's hard to get the skin. I'm not sure the varnish might be a bit too shiny, but I'll look at it in other lighting and see if I need to knock some of the shine off. The skin is Reaper's Dark Elf skin triad, mostly, with a little bit of an extra highlight added. And it looks better from some angles than others. Her boots, you might, in certain lighting it looks like she has bare legs, but she's actually wearing thigh-high boots that I decided to paint a dark blue as opposed to the purple of the skin. Maybe I should have contrasted it more, but I thought it was enough to have one contrasting color in the red skirt. Yeah. Now with this assassin, not very much of his skin is showing. It's the hands and just a tiny bit of the face. I don't think you can see much of it. And I've sort of tried to go with his dark colors, gone for subtle blends, not too sharp highlights. And the armor, I mean, canonically, Drow in D&D wear blackened armor, but, black skin plus black armor, you gotta make it, you can't do that in miniature form. So the skin is not black. I mean, even in the artwork for the game, nobody paints black skin for Drow. They do either dark purple, like I've done here, or dark blue, or dark gray. And the Reaper Dark Elf paint is kind of a grayish purple. And I think, I like it. I think it's good skin tone. And the armor, I've gone for sort of a silver with a dark blued finish, or rather dark blue shadows and shading. And the cloak is black, but with kind of turquoise highlights. Again, the varnish is a bit too shiny. The varnish is collected in the crevices more than on the highlights, which means that the dark areas are actually shining more than the light areas, and that's something I might need to go in and fix with some more matte varnish. And yeah. But apart from that, I'm reasonably pleased with how these turned out. And yeah, some more pics at the end. And here we see all the stuff that currently has some paint on it. Let's maybe start with this guy. What have I done on Popeye? Well, I've added some shading, mostly to the skin. Well, there's some metallics, but the big thing is I've worked on shading the skin, and I've been using blues to do that. I'm not sure if the shadows look a bit harsh, perhaps, on camera. But I especially on these muscled areas, they are so deeply undercut that I need a lot of shading. It needs to be a drastic change. No highlights yet. I'm going to bring the green up. And I'm going to use skin tones to lighten the olive green. And I've been using blue specifically. I've been using this dark sea blue from Vallejo to get some cool shadows on the skin as well. But I'll be adding more flesh tones to more warmth to the highlights. I've done a little bit on the metallics here, just a quick base coat of a dark silver, a gunmetal, and then adding some various shading and patches of rust effects. Starting to do that at least. There's a lot more to go. But as I mentioned, this is a slow project, but it's a slow burn. I'm taking my time. That's anyway what's happened to him. The final GW mini that I was working on is this wizard. So I'm gonna go... There's a fire theme here. He's got flames coming off both of his staffs. So I decided to do a sort of red wizard. I'm gonna paint them all in reds. And I've started doing the under robe in a kind of deep red, bloody red. And but I'm gonna do the cloak a brighter red, more towards the orange end of the spectrum. This is shaded down to brown, well, to a kind of whole red thing. I'm gonna go for mostly reds and oranges. I'm thinking deeply tanned skin and white hair, which doesn't affect the color balance as such, but most of it, you know, red flames, red cloak, red robe. The only contrasting color is going to be this turquoise orb. I think that would be dramatic, having mostly one sort of color and then just a pop of something else, very different. So we've kind of started the hobgoblins. They've seen some work on the metallics. The metallics are almost done. And I've just started the skin. Just added the first base coat on the skin tones, and I think in several of these I'm going to have to do a second or third coat even to get good coverage before I start highlighting and shading. But they're, you know, in the works. But I said I would prep some more stuff last week, didn't I? So let's see how far I've gotten with that. And I'm not sure where it's focused, but here's some work not quite so far along in progress. I've simply mostly assembled these, based them, and getting it ready to prime. Some of these were simple. This guy is a one-piece model that I've simply used some basing texture material on. Same thing here. This guy was based the same way, but he has some pieces attached, the head and both hands and the axe. You can perhaps see the connection joins at his wrists. I'll probably gap fill those slightly. I did put a pin in this wrist and arm. Didn't bother with the head. Didn't feel it needed it. Not fully complete. Oh, this wasn't. These four elves, I used textured bases, used some gray stuff and some texture stamps. This model was one piece. This one isn't completely finished. I glued on those daggers. She's got a sword hand he's gluing on. Here, this back piece was attached, and on this one I've attached the back of her skirt, but her arm, well, hands and sword. This has two connection points. This is slightly better. The rapier on this one is going to be, it's not going to be very solid or stable. Let's just put it that way. Now, these stamps I used for one of the first times the newer model of Happy Seppuku stamps. Let's see if I can find them here in my collection. Why is it not the ones? Yeah, here we go. I used the slate stone and wood roofs. This is supposed to be wood roof shingles. Now these are the new type of guy, the flexible rubber kind of stamps, as opposed to the old ones that were harder resin. And I think there's some pros and cons to it. I mean, the good thing about a more flexible stamp is that you can sort of wrap it around the material, and if you have a slightly uneven lump of putty, you can still you push on the soft stamp and you make it conform to the surface of the putty instead of having to make sure that the putty is completely smooth and even in depth. The disadvantage perhaps is that I'm not sure it leaves as good an impression as the harder stuff. Certainly, I'm thinking it might have been a mistake to use the gray stuff instead of green stuff here, because the gray stuff is harder, it gives more resistance, and you see on these roof shingles, I did not feel that the texture, the streaks, the wood grain came across enough. So I went in with a knife actually and made some more marks while it was still soft-ish. Yeah, we'll have to see how it paints up. Possibly I need to use green stuff only for these stamps. Base is a square because that's what they came with. These are all from either Pathfinder or Warlord lines. Well, not this one, but I wanted to, it came without any sort of base, so, and I wanted it to match up with these, so I used a spare square base. I had a phase a few years back where I thought I wanted to base, like I had this idea that, for instance, all my role-playing minis should be on round bases and all my wargaming minis should be on square bases. And they're like, I've sort of given up on that. I just use whatever comes with the model these days. It's not a big deal. Anyway, attaching the final swords, letting it all, the glue set, letting this basing material set. It's started to dry, but it's not fully cured yet. Maybe some gap filling, and then priming and painting, as per usual. Now, there's quite enough on my plate, but I'm lining up more projects anyway, and the reason for that is that this upcoming week I don't have a huge amount of time to paint, mostly because the weekend is going to be a gaming convention that I'm attending. But next week is a school holiday week, and I've got the whole week off from work. Tons of time to paint. So I need to prep some stuff to get it ready. Let's see what I've decided on. So for my next magic trick, I'm going to paint up all of these minis. Now, these are from a Kickstarter that arrived oh, I don't know. I think I showed them to you like a month ago, maybe two. You know, time just disappears around here. Hard to say, hard to say. It was a Kickstarter from, I think it's called RBJ Minis or RBJ Games. And it looks like a lot of minis, but most of them are skeletons. Most of them are these the skeleton schnauzers, little skeleton dogs. About half of them are like that, and the other half are these flying, flaming skulls in translucent plastic. There's a few others. There's like a couple of normal humanoid skeletons. There's a few minis like this little girl, which I'm not sure about, and we have a couple of female magic users, sorceresses here. Very Elvira looking. But anyway, I feel confident adding quite a lot to the cube because the skeletons are going to be stupid easy to paint up. It's like, you know, all the more. It takes more time to prep them than it does to paint them, probably. Yeah, so there's a ton of stuff here, but like I said, I think I can easily get through this pretty quickly. The reason I sort of delayed starting this project even is because I was waiting on, I wanted to get some new bases. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure I want to change the base. These are all 25mm bases, and I felt that these minis, these skulls and these little skeleton dogs, they're too small for 25mm bases. They should have just 20mm bases, and I was out of 20mm bases, so I was waiting until I had some. But yeah, we'll see if I stick to that plan. Now I'm not sure, but anyway, I'll get cracking on this and see how quickly I can get through them. Wow, I got mail. Finally, some new stuff arrived. Well, I got a box, as I mentioned before the break, with, among other things, bases. I placed an order with Heresy Miniatures, and it was partly because like I said, I needed bases, and this is one of the places I buy them from. Also, they had an offer. If you bought a certain amount of stuff, you would get a free special edition mini, and I think it was this guy who was a special version of their mascot, Big Boris, that came free with my order, I believe, or if it was simply very discounted, I forget. Anyway, I got him. I picked up a few other things. Here's another version of Boris, the not safe for work version. I think you can see why. This is the giant scorpion model, where you can see it has tons of little legs and pincers, and it has a resin body, and the legs and pincers are metal. So I don't know if there's a head somewhere, but yeah, this might be interesting to put together. Let's see how that works. I also got an angel. I realized I don't have any angel models. It's not like I use them as opponents very often in my role-playing games. But this is like an angel of vengeance. It's a big angry angel with a big sword and big wings and a special scenic base that comes with it. So that's fun. They tossed in, it says here, free figures to offset your shipping. A smiley face. So I often get these, and these are some of those wasp things, sort of waspy-like things. I've already painted up a bunch of these, actually. I got them with a Kickstarter, so I have 6 of these painted up. I'm not sure I really want to paint anymore, because they were a bitch to assemble with all these separate wings to glue onto the bodies. I might just sell or give these away. We'll see. It's this, oh, some candy. They sometimes just toss that in. And here we have a lot of bases. Here we have a ton of 20mm bases and some 30mm. I realized that I was out of 30mm as well. Pretty much out of them anyway. I tend to use these a lot for medium-sized monsters. A lot of monster figures are these days too big to fit on 25mm bases, even though technically in D&D terms they should be medium-sized monsters and you should only have 25mm bases, but oh well. Just means grid-based combat is going to be more difficult, but I don't often play with a grid these days anyway. I mostly sort of just use miniatures for flavor and atmosphere, and it's not like we play a board game. The log pad was not close. Anyway, so let's see if this opened the floodgates. Let's see if even more stuff is going to start arriving in the mail. And now that the drought seems to be over. Anyway, that was a jam-packed video. I hope you enjoyed it. Click like if you did. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Share the video. Comment on the video. And I will see you again in a week. But for now, this is Doc Eon signing off.